Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of Season 5 of Supernatural on CW. I just watched the finale, literally probably about 10 minutes ago. I just finished watching it. And of course, I had to get my review out there with Walking Dead Season 7 premiering tonight. I wanted to cover some of my Supernatural bases first. But before we get into the actual review, I want to show off a new poster I got of the show. Got it in the mail a couple days ago. I know it's a weird angle on it, but it looks pretty fucking nice. But yeah, I'm just really happy to have a poster of the show now. It's just, I've been saying this for my past couple season reviews, but Supernatural is just one of my absolute favorite shows at this point. No damn question about it. Favorite shows of all time, by the way. It's already earned its place among my all-time favorites. It's right up there with like Dexter, Breaking Bad, Being Human. It's right along with those for me. As well as like The Walking Dead to a certain extent, and Penny Dreadful has an area around there too. It's just an amazing show, from the acting to the general writing for the story, the dialogue, the effects are fine. It's just the detail in the brothers' relationship, the heart of the show, it's all just incredible. And so, going into Season 5, I had heard from a lot of people that it was like one of, if not the best seasons, but also that the finale really apparently served as sort of like a series finale type of thing in a way, because initially, from what I know, Supernatural was originally going to go for about 3 seasons, then at one point they upped it to 5, and after Season 5 is when I think the original showrunner or creator left or something like that. And a lot of people are saying this finale really is where you should stop, because apparently some people think the show gets terrible after this. I don't know about that, but as far as how good was the Season 5 finale, do I feel like it could have been worthy of it being the end of the show? Yeah, it was a great episode. It tied up a lot of stuff, had a lot of closure, a lot of emotional satisfaction, both the happy and sad end. So I could easily have seen that being the end had they wanted it that way. But as you know, Supernatural's gone on for Season 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's probably going to go into 13 and 14 too. The actors have said they at least want to get to 300 episodes at this point, so that means at least Season 14, I think. But I'm going to start Season 6 soon, probably some point this week. I'm curious to see the seasons after Season 5 for myself. I don't think it's going to be terrible, but I am curious to see it myself. But let's talk about Season 5 right now, because it was a really good season. I can see why people have praised it so much. Is it my favorite season? Maybe. I think I probably have to, think about it again for a while longer, or probably wait until I rewatch the show with my girlfriend at some point when I have her sit down and watch the series. So after I sort of rewatch every season, I might have more of an accurate stance on it. But just off the top of my head right now, this is probably my favorite season, along with maybe 4 and 2. Although I really loved 1 for what it started, and 3 had some very good points to it as well. So I've really liked or loved every season so far I've seen. And yeah, even though the original creator has left after Season 5, I still have faith in the rest of them to create an entertaining show, and I'm still eager to see more of it. So yeah, let's get into it. I haven't bought it yet, but that's because I had to save a little bit of money this week, for Grand Rapids Comic-Con, That was definitely quite a bit of fun, although it's not nearly as big as San Diego or anything. It's still nice to go to one of those. But I probably will be buying Season 5 on DVD this week for sure. So I don't really have it to go through the episode guide right now, but I'm looking at Netflix. So we're going to go through the episodes the same way anyway. Of course, the big thing for this season was, of course, Lucifer rising. with him being released right at the end of season 4. That was definitely the main focus for season 5. With how the hell are they gonna stop the devil, right? So I'm obviously not gonna be able to remember all the details of each of the episodes, but I just wanted to at least comment briefly on all of them, like I usually do. Of course, sympathy for the devil. We've seen the vessel he was gonna take in this episode, I think, and that vessel is played by Mark Pellegrino, who I really like as an actor. I know him especially from Being Human. He played one of the main antagonists on there. Very good actor, so I think he is a good choice for this. Although I don't think there's enough of Mark Pellegrino's Lucifer this season. Of course, he had like the whole end of the world feel creeping up more and more as the season went along, which I did appreciate. But one little gripe I had with this season is I feel like they could have given a little bit more screen time to Mark Pellegrino's Lucifer while he was the vessel. I would like to have seen more of him, but he definitely got his standout moments. And you had episode 2, Good God, y'all. Old Castiel goes in search in the fight against Lucifer. Sam and Dean help an old hunter friend of Bobby's. I like this episode. I'm just going to look up something about it to make sure I'm remembering certain details correctly. Just give me a second, guys. I appreciate the patience for anyone who's actually watching this video. But yeah, we meet up with let's see. Okay, yeah, sorry. We meet up with Ellen and Joe again in this episode. Of course, which is definitely makes this stand out on its own, really. But Sam and Dean come to the aid of some old friends when the town is overrun by demons. So I really like that, just the feel to that. It's not really zombies, but it's as close as it can get, really. Just like the feel, you sort of get like this almost like 28 days later feel when some of these people are infected by like the Croatoan or something like that. And although these are more so like humans and demons in this scenario, it's still kind of played like that, And I also like a psychological spin on it that the demons sort of used here, because they're basically having the humans like seeing there was really no demons like directly involved from what I remember. Of course, this is a lot of War's meddling. Of course, one of the 4 horsemen, which becomes like a big factor in stopping Lucifer as the season goes along. But War is basically making the humans see each other as demons, so they're all pretty much slaughtering each other, doing this massacre all on their own. So I really like that one. Of course, meeting up with Ellen and Joe again, it's good to have them as recurring characters. And of course, they come up again in a big way, and I think it's episode 10, Abandon All Hope, but we'll talk more about that episode in a few minutes. So I really like that one. He also had Rufus in this episode. I always like him. He's played pretty well. Probably should have gotten something to drink. Then episode 3, Free to Be You and Me. Not sure if he trusts himself anymore. Sam decides to give up hunting. Meanwhile, Dean teams up with Castiel to find the Archangel Raphael. So yeah. Dean and Sam have gone their separate ways and each face deadly challenges. And some of that episode had to deal with Lucifer trying to try to manipulate Sam into saying yes, because even though Lucifer is who he is still was an angel at one point, so he does still have to get consent. Excuse me. Of course, he uses the image of Jessica to try and manipulate Sam a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, just reading about the episode again. I like doing that for some reason. Let's see, and of course, this is where a group of hunters actually find out about Sam's place in the apocalypse coming up. And so Sam actually has to take out a few of them, which is a pretty good scene. And he had episode 4, The End. Really, really good episode. This is probably one of my favorites of the season. We have Zachariah. He takes Dean 5 years into the future, shows him the consequences of not helping the angels. And of course, the angels all season were also trying to push Dean into, saying yes to Michael, because apparently there has to be this inevitable confrontation between Michael and Lucifer to let things go one way or the other. This final battle between the two, as it had happened before. And of course, Dean's meant to be the vessel, but this is what ended up happening. Apparently, if Dean had said no, or if he just never agreed to it, and so you get this sort of look at this post-apocalyptic future. Dean, Dean becomes leader of this small resistance movement. Humanity's just gone. It's a complete, like I said, post-apocalyptic world at this point. And you even have, Castiel. He's just really high, and he's, like this ladies' man for some reason. It's kind of hard to explain, but I really like this episode. And of course, Dean meeting with himself and trying to get, trying to mesh their two perspectives together and trying to help him out, but also trying to set things right. Really fantastic episode. I sort of got to see a possible result, of this whole story, with Lucifer being in Sam and such, and Dean actually ended up failing in the end in that scenario, but it's still really good to see a look at that. And this really brings Dean, because they had agreed to separate, go their separate ways. But this eventually spurs Dean to realize that he does want Sam close to him. They meet up at the end of the next day. Dean apologizes for leaving Sam, and they need each other to hunt again. That they are what keep each other human. To keep themselves who they are. They're really like each other's like last strings. You know what I mean? That are keeping them afloat. Dean says they need to create their own future. Very good episode. Episode 5, which was Fallen Idols. Sam and Dean investigate what appears to be the deaths of people at the hands of celebrities. And this episode wasn't as important as the others. Like the monster of the week was Alishi, which had apparently been taking forms of different celebrities and sort of historical figures. So it's still a pretty fun episode. Like you see this Abraham Lincoln image of Abraham Lincoln killing people, as well as like Gandhi and stuff like that. Then you even have it taking the form of Paris Hilton by the end of the episode. So that was kind of fun. It was so not on the level of some of the others this season, but still definitely a very watchable and very fine episode. Again, I'm sure there's details, but I'm forgetting. But I liked it, of course. It's supernatural. So let's see, episode 6. I believe the children are our future. The young boy connected to mysterious deaths and injuries is revealed to have an important role in the apocalypse. Very, very good episode. I really, really like this one. You had, I think the kid's name is Jesse Turner. Yeah, that was him. But yeah, he ended up having these abilities, because he was apparently like the offspring of a demon and a human. According to Castiel, Jesse can completely destroy and vanquish all the angels in heaven with a single word. And he can also alter reality, basically, and he could potentially be a very important piece one way or the other. So I really like that. And Dean and Sam trying to reach out to him as a child. It's always a good dynamic when we see one of the brothers try and in a way sort of see themselves, but also try to do something better for him. And of course it kind of got into his mother and such, and the estranged relationship there, as well as his adoptive parents, because the mother had given him up after giving birth. And of course he also had another demon trying to convince him that he had to go on this side and do this and that. So yeah, very good episode. I just can't go into every single detail of everything, but I really, really like this one. And then you had episode 7, The Curious Case of Dean Winchester. One of those that in all actuality isn't that important, in the grand scheme of things for this season. But you had Bobby and the boys get involved in a high stakes poker game that gambles with years of lives. And as far as I know, they're basically like these witches. I'd essentially use like poker as this backdrop to sort of take years off their lives, but they weren't entirely just cheats either. They would actually give them a chance in a way, except most of them just wouldn't win, but it's happened before. And Dean, he ends up getting the focus of this because he ends up having to sacrifice himself for Bobby's life. And so Dean, he's played by this older man for a little bit of the episode, this older actor. So it's kind of funny from that perspective, and Sam ends up having to be the one to play the main guy at the end, to get him back and such. And there's also this like a bit of a subplot with the girl, not wanting to be with him anymore and such. The guy playing the poker. I'm not explaining it the right way, but this is a pretty good episode. It's not quite stacked up to some of the others, but of course I still liked it. Then he had, episode 8, Changing Channels. When Sam and Dean get trapped in a series of TV shows, they suspect the work of the trickster. And, of course, this episode turned into a huge, huge episode. I'm sorry, I went to bed a little bit late last night. Kind of going right now. But this is a really, really great episode. It was very funny because it starts off with Sam and Dean investigating the death where the wife swears her husband was killed by the Incredible Hulk. Like Lou Ferrigno attacking him. And so this basically ends up as far as we know, this person being the trickster. He puts Sam and Dean in these like different reality shows, or these different like TV sitcom scenarios, really, or some like romance, more like soap opera type of genres and stuff. So this is a really fun one. Like we see them in a basic sitcom, like a hospital romance thing. So it was pretty funny how they played that off. But this episode turned into a pretty important one, because we find out the trickster isn't really the trickster, he's actually the Archangel Gabriel. So that put a lot more importance on a lot of events when you think about it now, when you had seen him previously in the series. I always like the actor playing him too, so it was kind of good to see his role be even bigger than we already thought it was. So I really definitely like this episode. And then we had episode 9, which was called The Real Ghostbusters. Sam and Dean find real ghosts when Becky invites them to a supernatural convention. So it's one of those like almost like semi-breaking the fourth wall things, like they did previously. When they would see like fan comments on forums about the books that the Prophet had written off of them, and how they sort of use that to address like certain fan criticisms, or like the weird shippers that want Sam and Dean together for some reason. This is another one sort of like that. But it was just really funny to see Sam and Dean go to like an actual convention for themselves. And Becky, I forgot to mention this before, but of course the girl who was involved with the Prophet, of course, Chuck, she's actually played by Emily Perkins, who I know from the Ginger Snaps movies. And she's just a completely different character on this than she was as Bridget. So it was fun to see her. So I really liked this episode. I also liked Damien and Barnes quite a bit. They're one of the fans, of course. Damien was supposed to be dressed up like Dean, and they're both trying to cosplay, and they're there to like act out different scenarios from the books, which were actually from the show and such. So it's good to kind of see those nods again. Yeah, excuse me. But I actually thought they were, very fun characters, actually. They turned out to be a gay couple in the end, which is cool. So I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then we had episode 10, which completely changed the gears compared to that, compared to the convention episode. Abandon All Hope. And this one, of course, brought back Ellen and Joe again. and Sam and Dean track down the cult and go after Lucifer. And it turns out to be like this whole complete setup thing. There are hellhounds unleashed. We do see Meg, if you guys remember her, she's put into a different body again. And it's basically Sam, Dean, Ellen, and Joe trying to survive this scenario. And of course they're trying to get a hold of the cult, because that was revealed to actually still be intact, and supposedly they'd try to use it to kill Lucifer. And the big thing about this episode that's really going to stick out in your mind is we actually see the deaths of Ellen and Joe in this episode, which is really sad, but very well done, very well acted out by both actresses. They're very good reoccurring characters. They easily could have probably become an even bigger part of the show. Sort of like Bobby, but their character deaths really helped to set the tone for the rest of the season, I think. And then with that, you really you had them sacrificing themselves. At first, Joe, she ends up being injured by one of the hellhounds, which was kind of brutal to see. And so she, they can't drag her around. She says, "You wanted to set these, this trap and the bombs to go off to kill the rest of the hellhounds, or otherwise they'd be on Sam and Dean's tail for the rest of their lives unless they did something about them too." And Ellen doesn't want to live without her daughter, so she decides to go out with her. And that's it. It's very tragic to see, but again, just very well acted out, just very sad as well. And they do end up tracking Lucifer down as he's trying to release death. They do shoot him with the Colt, but after a few seconds, he gets up and he's recovered. He feels it, but it doesn't actually kill him, unfortunately. And then you get a sense of how Lucifer really sees his demons. He sacrifices a bunch of them to summon death, and he just says, they're just demons. And that kind of plays into what some of the demons thought about Lucifer before he was released. Some of them had that neutral stance on him, just because they realized that Lucifer doesn't really care that much about any of them. There are a lot of points where different characters would say that Lucifer is like this child on a temper tantrum, because he was God's most loved child. Then he started showing more love to his creations of humans, and you think that is actually true to an extent. But nonetheless, very, very good episode. Very sad, but it's definitely one you're not really going to forget. And then you had episode 11, Sam Interrupted. When a former hunter asks for help, Sam and Dean admit themselves to a psychiatric hospital. So this was a pretty good one too. We met Martin. He had worked with John before, apparently. And this episode is really good because they're looking for the Wraith, but really did a good job playing on the psychological and stances and the psyches of the brothers. So I really, really like this one. And then, of course, the doctor ends up being this woman Dean had been interacting with throughout the episode, who I actually thought was played pretty well. So I really, really liked that one. Then we had episode 12, Swap Meet. A group of teenagers decide to go after the demon bounty of Dean, because, of course, they're essentially, like I said, a group of teenagers. But they're kids, probably at least a few years younger than me. But they just think it's a good idea to look into this worship of the devil and stuff, and they get a hold of this book somehow, and they end up alerting a demon to the brother's presence, and one of them actually ends up switching bodies with excuse me. One of them actually ends up switching bodies with Sam. And so we have to sort of see Sam deal with his kid's family and the reactions to that and such from him acting differently. And the teenagers realize that they probably bit off way more than they wanted to with their deals with the demons and such. of course, with Gary being the main one that switched bodies with Sam. So yeah, I really like this one. Again, one of those that isn't like one of the main story episodes, but I still found it to be pretty enjoyable. And episode 13, the song remains the same. This was an incredible episode, one of the best of the season, right up there at the end, and a couple others coming up. I really love this. Anna goes back to 1978 to kill John and Mary Winchester in order to stop Sam from ever being born. Because there are these group of angels, taking these different stances on how to put an end or prevent the apocalypse, the clash with Michael and Lucifer. Of course, Castiel, he's starting to care quite a bit more about Dean and Sam personally. He's starting to actually feel. And we'll talk more about Castiel a little bit later in the video. But then you have these other angels like Anna, who was a character we were, trusting. But then she gets this idea that, it would be best to actually prevent Sam from being born, and this means going back in time and killing Sam and, killing John and Mary. So, of course, with seeing John and Mary again, it brings you those nostalgic feelings. Again, even though of course, I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan as John, and that's definitely the way we love to see him. I still think the guy who they have playing the younger version of John, does fairly well. So we have Dean meet up with Mary again, and he eventually has to tell her that he's her son, and it's a very emotional moment, but very well acted on the part of Jensen Ackles. This was also a very Dean-centric episode because Dean was the one that had to go back and sort of deal with this. So I really like those. Like the Dean-centric sort of solo episodes are some of the absolute strongest of the series. Just like as far back as like episode 20 of season 2, still one of my favorite episodes. That was very much Dean-specific and or at least Dean's perspective. So I really like this episode. I loved it actually. And of course we seen Uriel. He was also Uriel was actually killed earlier on too, but we see this younger version of Uriel, and this is where Michael actually ends up making his debut. He kills Anna and he sends the young Uriel packing. And then he explains that Dean and the two brothers and their family line go all the way back to Cain and Abel, and that what's coming must and will come. And so very, very huge episode. And they make sure that that Mary and John won't remember any of the events of that day. It was good to see John sort of start to have a knack for helping them with the supernatural and demon stuff. Because he's one of the greatest hunters when he of course grows, when he gets older, through tragic means. But yeah, he's one of the best for sure. So it's kind of cool to see that. And again, the moments between Dean and Mary were just really, really well done. Episode 14, My Bloody Valentine. When couples begin to kill each other, Castiel suspects that Cupid has gone rogue. But of course not. It doesn't turn out to be Cupid or a Cupid. Apparently there's quite a few of them, and the Cupid we do meet is very awkward. He likes giving hugs in his underwear and stuff like that. And I also want to take this moment to praise Castiel. Quite a bit this season. I loved him in season 4. He definitely raised the importance of season 4 with his debut. But he developed even more in this season. Misha Collins does a great job. It's just funny and awkward just to see him deal with like these different scenarios, and he didn't quite know what to say. He would just say things like blankly and bluntly, or sort of state the obvious. He just plays it off really well. I really like the work Collins does in the role, and I can definitely see why he's a mainstay character. I'm definitely happy to have him on my poster too. But the main thread of this episode is actually one of the other 4 horsemen, Famine, who actually came across pretty creepy, I thought. And then a really good moment is when he sort of, of course he drives these people to, hunger, not just for food and stuff, but just sort of greed and different things like that, just to sort of start giving into it, just rapidly. And when he takes a look into what Dean wants, what he's like hungry for, he sees like how broken and damaged Dean is, how he essentially almost doesn't really want to live anymore, which of course plays into the psyche, which of course is just done so well throughout the series for Dean. How he just has like this big empty nothing, and his core, he just he's like running on fumes, or he's going through the motions, like Famine says. So very good episode. Let's see, and then Sam, of course, he gives in to the demon blood because of famine, increasing his hunger for it. But he ends up just exorcising all the demons, and after famine absorbs and eats all of them, which seemingly destroys the horsemen. And we also have a very sad moment for Dean, because he goes outside, sort of because what famine had brought up, really just brings it all out, and Dean stops drinking his whiskey, begins to tear up, he prays, asks for heaven's help, and begins to, cry. Very sad moment. Just when Jensen Ackles says, "I need a little help," I can't do it justice, but very well done, and sad scene. Very good episode. Episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. A really, really good one. This one, hold on. Let me see. But yeah, this episode, Abandon All Hope, the end, and the song remains the same, were probably some of my favorites of the season, although there's going to be a couple others I really liked that I'll talk about in a few minutes towards the end of the season. But Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid was a very, very good episode. It gave a lot of focus to Bobby, because people in Bobby's hometown are coming back from the dead, but Bobby insists nothing is wrong. Of course, Bobby is aware that something is wrong, but just to see these people he knew coming back, and mainly his wife actually supposedly being back, it just gives a lot of focus on the Bobby character, played by Jim Beaver, and you really feel for him here. You guys remember the story he told, how he actually had to kill his wife, who was taken over by a demon. At the time, he didn't actually know how to get the demon out, so it, of course, is a very sad situation. So to see her come back, you really felt for Bobby here. And the action in this episode is also very good, because we essentially got our closest thing to zombies. I talked about what the Croatoan virus does, which is cool, but this is really even closer, because they eventually have this hunger that builds up, and they end up acting very much like running zombies. So I really love the action to it, and Bobby eventually having to put his wife down. She does remember what he had to do previously, and it's just very touching, very sad, but then Bobby is also able to sort of bring himself back up. And we get this great moment between Dean and Bobby, saying how, Dean says he's like a father to him, and how much they need him and don't want him to give up. So, really good episode. Yeah, I know this video has gone on pretty long. It's almost 35 minutes now. So I don't want to take too much more time, but I do want to get further. So episode 16, Dark Side of the Moon. Sam and Dean are killed and find themselves in heaven. They basically have these hunters having a gun on them, and when they wake up, so there's really nothing they can do. And I like sort of their fear of Dean. They end up shooting Sam, but they're debating whether they have to kill Dean or not. They want to kill Sam because, of course, him being the vessel of Lucifer and such. Or no, not being the vessel, more so for Sam had released Lucifer somehow, starting the apocalypse. But when they're about to shoot Dean, one of them says, well, yeah, we gotta shoot him. Do you want to spend the rest of your life, when Dean Winchester's on your ass? So I really like how that played into the reputation the Winchesters do have. How credible and respected and sort of like feared they are among their, among other hunters and such. So I really like that. But of course, Zachariah and other angels don't want Sam and Dean just dead, because they want that Michael and Lucifer fight to happen. So Zachariah is spending the whole time looking for him, in this heaven. And heaven doesn't look like what we thought. It's like no bright pearly gates or anything like that. We get this idea that heaven is what we all make it. what our individual heaven is. And I think that was actually an interesting idea on it. I'm just going to say real quick, I'm not a very religious person at all. But I thought this was an interesting take on it. I think it would make a lot of sense, if you do believe in it. It makes sense that we'd all have our own personal heavens and we'd be put there, to sort of just, be happy. And we meet up again with Ash, who was killed, previously, of course, when the building came down quite a while ago. So it's good to see him again. And we also have Pamela, with her eyes and such, so it's cool to see her, of course, one of the seers. So yeah, I really like this episode. And I gotta mention Zachariah. I hated Zachariah. It was good to see him finally killed a little bit later into the season. But yeah, he was definitely a character that I wanted dead for a while. But yeah, Dark Side of the Moon, really good episode. And you got to see Dean spend a little bit of time with Sam as a kid, and see one of the happiest moments for them when they're setting off these fireworks and such. Really nice. Episode 17, 99 Problems. Outnumbered by demons, Sam and Dean are saved at the last minute by a hunter and his very religious townspeople. All of them are aware of the apocalypse and trained to kill demons. So this is, again, I really like the scenario to this one, almost like a zombie type of setup. But this is, more of demons overwhelming and such by this group, sort of being secluded and having to fight off these things in sort of a post-apocalyptic type of situation. So I really like that. And then the main girl, who we think is communicating with the angels or something like that, actually turns out to be the Whore of Babylon, and being the source of all this in this particular area anyway. So that was a decent little twist on it. So yeah, I really like this episode. I don't want this video to go an hour, so I'm trying to pick it up a little bit, but really like that episode. Episode 18, Point of No Return. Dean begins to think that the only way to stop Lucifer is to say yes to Michael. The angels decide they don't need him anymore. Dean, Sam, and Castiel are horrified at the angels' new game plan and take on Zachariah to prevent an all-war on Earth. Meanwhile, a familiar face returns. And this is where we see Adam again, the boy's half-brother. Whom I really liked when I first met him in Season 4. It was unfortunate to find out that he was already dead. But I really like the dynamic of, them having another sibling. And sort of, we got a different perspective on John through Adam, too. So I was pretty happy when they brought Adam back, despite it being through, bad means, to be Michael's vessel. I was still pretty happy when they did this, though, and they sort of got Adam struggling with, who to believe, this angel. We should automatically trust angels, right? But Sam and Dean are able to reach out to him and sort of make him, put other thoughts in his head about what's really going on. I think is this the episode? Okay, yeah, this is the episode where Dean finally gets to kill Zachariah. He stabs him through the mouth with, of course, the angel-killing sword, and Michael arrives, and they couldn't really save Adam, unfortunately, so Adam does become Michael's vessel at this point. But still, very good episode. Episode 19, Hammer of the Gods. A group of gods plot to stop the apocalypse. And these are basically just a bunch of, other parties, basically independent parties, they all, try and want to band together to put this to rest. You have Odin, you have Kali, you have Baldur, you have Baron, Mercury, and different ones like that. And you have Gabriel involved, trying to help out. And of course, this is a very awkward thing for Sam and Dean because they're just surrounded by gods, and we found out, Gabriel, or who they think is the trickster, who the gods think is the trickster, Loki, actually. He actually has this, previous relationship with Kali. So this is a very good episode, and we get this great scene between Lucifer and Gabriel at the end. Again, I really like the actor who played Gabriel. Ever since he was a trickster, I think he gave a very fun performance. The actor being named Richard Spite Jr. I think he did a very good job. I liked him and Lucifer's scene together, even though Lucifer unfortunately does kill him in the end. Let's see. And yeah, Gabriel confronts him. He tells Lucifer that he has no legitimate grievance. He merely is jealous that humanity replaced him in God's affections. Gabriel says he is not on Lucifer's side or Michael's, but that he has come to agree with God that humanity is better than them. Gabriel then tries to kill Lucifer with the angel blade, but Lucifer turns on him and kills Gabriel. So yeah, very good scene. I like the dialogue. Again, Mark Pellegrino did a very good job in the scene as Lucifer. Like I said before, I wish we would have seen more of him this season. This is one of his strongest moments, as well as when he released Death in episode 10. But yeah, I did really like this episode. And, Gabriel sort of seen this coming, though, because he left Sam and Dean a clue in this Casa Erotica DVD, which is kind of awkward for him to watch at first. But this is where he tells them that they may be able to re-imprison Lucifer, and the keys to his cage are on the rings of the Four Horsemen. And they have the first two from Warren Femin. And of course, this is where we meet Pestilence at the end of the episode. He had this very, a very slimy fly sort of god. I remember the Four Horsemen anyway. So yeah, very good episode. The Devil You Know. Crowley offers to help the Winchesters. And yeah, I wanted to talk about Crowley. This is the first season where we meet him. I think he's a very good character. He's on my poster, so I was hoping I would like him, and I do. I think he's played very well. He is actually the boss of the Crossroads Demons. He's the one sort of, that's really keeping a hold of everything on that end. So I really like that we give this outside demon's perspective on everything going on. He actually tries to help the Winchesters. He keeps out certain truths, but he does seem to actually be a character we can trust to an extent anyway. And he does something very good for Bobby in the next episode or two, where he actually, Bobby is unfortunately paralyzed, and Bobby does have to temporarily give his soul to Crowley, but Crowley had promised him to give it back, and he also gave Bobby the chance to walk again, and so I think that sort of told you what kind of character Crowley is. I think he is a good character. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing him explored more, sort of that different dynamic with the demon we haven't really seen too much of before. But yeah, very good episode. This is mainly dealing with Pestilence. Let's see, and they take care of Pestilence, and they're trying to figure out where Death will be. So yeah, pretty good episode. 2 minutes to midnight, episode 21. Very good episode. The Winchesters and Bobby are reunited with Castiel and get close to collecting the rings from the Four Horsemen. As well as in that episode where Adam was made the vessel, we had Castiel sort of sacrifice himself and just taking out all these demons and angels and such. It was really cool. But Castiel luckily is still around. And this episode is great because we get the scene between Dean and Death. And I like the guy who played Death. He's fairly creepy. He had sort of this like skeletal looking sort of face like we've seen on some of the Reapers before. And of course, Death is a very big character to meet in this type of world with this type of story. So he definitely came across the right way, pretty intense, lightning sort of flashing as he and Dean talked. I think that was played pretty well. Dean eventually has to agree to, let Sam, jump in and because Sam gets this idea that he has to sacrifice himself, let Lucifer take him over, but then fight him off to the point of where he can actually jump in and imprison himself. And Death tries to get Dean to agree to that. Dean does when he sort of wonders, what it'd be like what's going to happen if he lied to Death's face. So yeah, very good episode. And yeah, my throat's getting really dry right now. But episode 22, the finale, Swan Song, fantastic episode. Like I said at the beginning of the review, the finale was not overhyped. It definitely felt like it could have easily been the final episode of the whole series had they wanted it. Had they not continued it, I would have been pretty satisfied with this episode and this ending. Because we have Sam eventually, of course they do meet up for Lucifer. Sam says yes, and Sam must drink a bunch of demon blood to make his body strong enough for Lucifer to want to enter. And this is just really good, with the apocalypse approaching, their options getting smaller. Dean agrees to Sam's plan to try and trap Lucifer. But yeah, I really loved it. Everything with even from the Michael and the Lucifer confrontation we got some really good dialogue between them. Um, with Lucifer saying some things to Michael that were actually correct, and you could see that Michael actually couldn't deny some of what he said. Yes, this is really like a reaction of Lucifer's, but he's not completely wrong in what he's saying either, which is, of course, really interesting and really thought-provoking, really. And then, of course, you have Dean still trying to do something, even though there's pretty much nothing he can do at this point. He ends up deciding that he doesn't want Sam to die alone. He doesn't want Sam to go down alone. If Michael wins or whatever happens, he doesn't really care to keep going without his brother. But Sam had this wish for him, that whatever happens, he wants Dean to have this apple pie life. He wants him to go find Elise and Ben and sort of just live a normal life and try to have something like that, which of course is really touching. Oh wow, that's weird. Anyway, but yeah, very good episode. Like I said, I loved it. It easily could have served as the the series finale had they chose to keep it that way. And we had a pretty shocking moment, where Castiel and Bobby show up to try and help Dean, and Castiel, he just has like zero angel mojo at this point, as Dean would say, and Lucifer snaps his fingers, and Castiel is obliterated, and it's kind of hard to see that because he obliterates him as like this blood mess, really. So it's hard to see that happen to Castiel. But I know how important a character he is in later seasons, so I knew he wasn't really gone for good. But it's still kind of shocking to just see that happen. And we have Bobby's neck get snapped, which of course is hard to see too. Dean's reaction to that was especially hurtful. And we have Lucifer just beating on Dean and Sam's body as Dean's trying to do anything possible to reach out to his brother. And then throughout the episode, we also had Chuck sort of narrating and sort of like writing the story, sort of about the Impala, the little things about it that make it what it is, make it sort of this home to Sam and Dean that they didn't realize they had, like all these years. Just like little things about it, like the toy soldier stuck in one of the passenger doors, and different things like that. And this ends up helping to trigger Sam inside of Lucifer and sort of get Sam to come out fighting again. And sort of start to overpower Lucifer, which is really good to see. And this eventually spurs Sam, despite Michael showing up, to opening up the portal again and sort of letting himself fall into it. And he also pulls Michael down with him. And we see everything seems to be set right after that. It appears to have worked. Lucifer is, as far as we know, trapped for now anyway. And we see Castiel, he has been brought back by this other source, apparently. He sort of implies that it may have been God's work, like all this time, like certain things that have gone their way might have been possibly God's interference with it, I don't know. But yeah, Castiel now has his angel powers back, his angel abilities, so he's then able to heal and bring back Bobby, which is good. And you just have really sad scenes of Dean mourning his brother, though, just trying to live without him. But he does try and do what Sam had wanted. He does find Elise and Ben, and he sits to have dinner with them. She does take him in. She comforts him, and he mourns in her arms for what he's lost. And yeah, so it's really touching to see. And of course, Chuck types the end. And but then as soon as Chuck finishes typing, he vanishes, for reasons unknown. And apparently this is meant to imply maybe he was God himself, a manifestation of God himself all this time, which is kind of fun to think about. Actually really interesting to think about if Chuck was actually God this whole time. Then whoa, that really makes you rethink certain things. And that sort of makes sense how it went as he would exactly right. If he is actually God. I don't know. I haven't seen more of it yet. But, and of course, when we see Dean having, he says goodbye and sort of mourns Sam with Bobby. That says they won't see each other again for a while. Dean is having dinner with Lisa and Ben. Lisa asks if Dean is okay. he responds he is before he sells himself in, and he like starts serving the food and such. And he tries to start living a normal life without hunting and his brother. And we hear that Bobby is actually still hunting like a week later, but Dean just sort of wants to try and live this life Sam had wanted for him. And we see a street light go out outside though, and then we see Sam standing under it and watching. So that was probably the part they added in to sort of give a continuation to it for season 6. But yeah, really, really great episode. Like I said, if they had wanted it to be the end of the series, I would have been pretty satisfied, but I am curious to see more of it. I think it'll still be a very good show. But yeah, great finale, incredible season. I absolutely loved it. Supernatural is one of the greatest shows of all time, bar none, no damn question about it. I don't think you can challenge it, sorry. Honestly, I like it more than Breaking Bad. I'm just going to say it now, probably a little bit more than Dexter. Being Human's debatable, but I love the season. Great finale, ended in a great way. Can't wait to see season 6. I'll give you guys my thoughts on that eventually, and I'll see you guys later for the review of The Walking Dead premiere tonight. So follow me on Facebook, Twitter, like, subscribe, and peace. This video is almost an hour.